Hi, Matt Toms with another OneChart lesson here. Today we're going to be learning a little bit about how to strum good reggae rhythms. Now, it's not that complicated. We can start very simply, but there's a few things that we need to kind of just make sure we go over in order to get the feel of reggae right. Now, the first thing is that you can either strum with your fingers like I usually do, and you'll notice in my other videos I'm almost always playing with my fingers as my strumming implement, but you can just as easily use a pick. Now, there are some advantages to using fingers for your strumming, which we'll get to later when we sort of engage our thumb as well as our fingers for different parts of our strums, but you can do a lot of that with a pick. So if you're a pick player, persevere. Keep at it. You might want to try doing some of the things that I do with my fingers with your reggae strumming, because it will give you a different kind of feel. A lot of the really basic reggae strums can be done with a pick, but when you start to get a little bit more complex with some of the rhythm strums, then it's really helpful to be able to use your fingers instead. Okay, so in reggae rhythms, most of the time you're going to want to use bar chords. Now, you don't have to use bar chords, but the reason why it's more effective to use bar chords is because bar chords, with a bar chord, you're touching every single string. And when you're touching every single string with some part of your hand, then you can actually mute all those strings instantly simply by releasing the pressure but not releasing your fingers. So if you're, for example, here's an A bar chord. So it looks like an E-shaped chord, looks like an open E that you've moved up to the 5th fret. Now, in another video, I'm explaining a lot about bar chords and different shapes, and they're actually not as complicated as a lot of people think they are. But I'm going to assume that you know a little bit about bar chords, or just the basics of bar chords here, because we're going to use 3 chords to do a reggae rhythm pattern, and we're going to turn that pattern into a song, a Bob Marley song, in just a little while. So when we do an A bar chord like that, an A major bar chord, we're pressing down on every single string. We're hearing every string from the E 6th string to the E 1st string. If I stop pressing down on those strings, but keep my fingers and my hand where it is, then the strings will stop vibrating and the chord cuts short. Okay, like this. Release. So you can see that my fingers are still all touching the strings, but now they're muted like that, or they're muffled. So one of the killer things to do with a reggae rhythm is to squeeze your bar chord as you strum it, and then as soon as you strum it, you release that pressure and you mute the chord. So you get that really nice short chord like that. Okay, so that's the basics of muting your chord to get it really shorten it up and get that real snap that you hear in reggae strumming. If you do it with your open A chord, so there's an open A major chord, right? You can do it as well with open chords, but you've got to do a lot of your muting with your right hand. And probably the easiest way to do that is to strum and then use this part of your hand to touch the strings, kind of as the end part of your strum. So you'll see I'm sort of strumming those strings, and then my hand comes back and mutes the strings straight away. One smooth movement, out and back. Strum, mute, strum, mute, strum, mute. On a D chord, strum, mute, strum, mute, strum, mute. So you want that mute to be as smooth as possible. You don't want it to feel like an extra movement or an extra strum in itself. You want it to feel like an extension of your strum. Strum, mute, okay? For the rest of this video, we're going to be using bar chords because it's by far the better way to get that choppy, short, muffled, muted chord sound. Okay? Now, if our rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and what we're going to do most of the time with our reggae strumming is it's also swung as opposed to straight. Now, a straight count or a straight 8 count, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, that's straight. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. A swung rhythm sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it's almost like we push the and back against the following beat. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so if you can do that with your right hand, mute all the strings for a minute. Just lay your fingers across the strings and see if you can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Once you can do that, that's a swung rhythm. Now, the very most basic reggae rhythm is just a down strum on the second beat of the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fourth beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though we're not playing the ands, I want you to be thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, because that's too stilted. It's too straight to have that really nice cruisy swung reggae feel. So I want you to be going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again, you can do it with a pick just as easily as your fingers. Next stage along, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do an up strum on the 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm squeezing the 2 and the 2 and the 4 and the 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Squeezing both those chords on. So it takes a little bit of getting used to be squeezing all the time. And your hand will get fatigued. When you start learning how to do this, your hand will get fatigued for a little while, but it will quickly become strong enough to do it without even thinking about it. So that's the next stage along. We start with 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now here is where it comes in handy to be using your fingers, because what we can do is we can use our thumb to play the bass note or the root note of the chord, which in this case of the A major chord is this E string 5th fret. What we can do is we can play the root note on the first beat of the bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2, right? So 1 and 2. So that will take a little bit of getting used to. Just go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get that going, you might want to try dropping the third beat thumb note, because it kind of gets a little bit too rhythmic, or a little bit too predictable, a little bit too consistent. You want to be going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you can do that comfortably, then you can start adding in those up strums on the 2 and the 4 and that we just did earlier. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. What you're noticing there is that 4 and I'm leaving the pressure on, I'm leaving that chord to ring on. And when I start the new bar with my thumb note on the 1, it's kind of joining up. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So do that for a while. Once you can do it really comfortably without even thinking too much about it, then you're ready to kind of move on to the next little layer of complexity, which is adding all those 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. There's 8 beats that we're counting out there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? All of those beats can actually be articulated with strums, but you don't want to articulate them as chords. You want to make them what we call muted strums, which in a tab would probably come up as a line of X's. That's a line of X's. It means strum the strings, but don't let them have any note or pitch to them. Okay? So as we're moving our hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. If you start with that, you can see how those chords fit in. 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you can keep that rhythm going, and you can fill it out simply by moving your hand across those strings on every one of those eighth note beats, swung eighth note beats, and then just press on the chords when you want to hear them. Now that sounds complicated, so what you want to do when something sounds complicated, you want to trust your ears a little bit, and you can hear what this sounds like. Start very softly with your little muted strums. Start very softly. Until you get control of it. You can do a 1, 2, and then a 4 and you can do a 1, 2 and then a 4. Mix it up. See what sounds good. That gives you the basics to kind of start building your reggae strum. Again, use your ears. Play what feels good. If it sounds good, it is good. You are the best judge of how that strumming is sounding and how it's feeling. A lot of it is how it's feeling rather than how it's sounding, actually, because if it feels good, it will sound good. So once you get comfortable with that style of reggae strumming, and you're doing it as simply or as complex as you like to, then you can start adding new chords. Now, always when you're doing your thumb on the root note of the chord, be careful. If you're changing, say, for example, in this Bob Marley song, we're going to go from A, we're going to do 2 bars of A, then we're going to move to D, and then we're going to go for the 4th bar of the pattern, we're going to go up to E. Now I'll take you through those chords again. We've got A, here is an E shape on the 5th fret. D is an A-shaped chord on the 5th fret also, but now our root note is on the A string 5th fret. So that's the one you want to articulate with your thumb. And the E chord is the same shape moved up 2 frets, to the root note being on the 7th fret, A string. So even that, without doing a very complex rhythm, you can practice move through those chords, always following your root note for each chord with your thumb. And if you do 2 bars of A followed by a bar of D and a bar of E, and you repeat that 4-bar cycle over and over and over, you've got the Bob Marley song Stir It Up. Okay? It's a great song to practice with because it's also got a really groovy bass line, which I've put on the OneChart for your interest, for your practice, for something, you know, just for something extra to do. This is a 3-chord song. It's got a very groovy bass line in it. It simply goes from verse to chorus to verse to chorus to verse to chorus with a little guitar solo thrown in there, but every single section of that song goes over that 4-bar pattern. A, D, E. A, D, E. A, D, all the way through. So, if you're ready to start your reggae strum with me, I will tap out a very, very basic rhythm with my foot pedal here. We're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to start on A. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. D, E. Back to the start. I'm going to show you the bass line for the section that is the chorus and the intro. So, 5th fret with the A note, 5th fret E string. Now, you can play the open A string, but because we're doing our root notes for all our chords and we're following the root notes with our thumb when we're strumming, I think it's a good idea to keep that root note in the same place. If you go down to the open A string, all of a sudden you're introducing a different position, and it helps to kind of follow that same pattern of E, of A, D, and E through the bass note pattern. So here we go. 5th fret E string, 4th fret A string, 4th fret A string again as a quick half note, followed by the 5th fret A string, like that. So we've got, then back to the 4th fret A string. Then when the chords change to D, we do another little half note on the 4th fret A string, and we move to the 5th fret, which is our D. That's when the chord changes to D. And we go 5th fret A string, 4th fret D string, 7th fret, and use your pinky to stretch up there so your hand can stay in the same position. 7th fret D string. Then last beat of that bar, last half beat of that bar, back to the 5th fret A string and slide it up to the 7th fret of the A string. That's the start of the 4th bar, where the chord changes to E. That note there that you've slid up to is an E. So we've gone, then follow it quickly with a D, with the D string 6th fret, and pinky on the 9th fret D string. So it's the same pattern as you've just done here down on the 5th fret. Right, 5, 4, 7. Do the 5 again, slide up and go 7, 6, 9. 5, 4, 7. 5, 7, 6, 9. Now we're going into the verse, and the bass line slightly changes. Gets much more simple. So that's the first bar over the first A. So it goes on the A string, all on the A string, and this time we can play this on the open A string because the riff is a little bit more simple using the A string. That's it. That's the entire riff for that A chord. So we go open A string, second fret, 4th fret, back to the open A string. Like that. Then when we move to the next bar, the bass doesn't play. It is clear. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that is exactly the same, but played on the D string because we're over the D chord now in the pattern. And then when it moves to the E, again, there's no bass line. So it's very, very simple in the verses. Back to A. D. That's it. Back to the rhythm. It's been a long, long time since I got you on my mind. Now that you are here, I said that it's okay. See what we can do. Just me and you. Come on and steer it up. A little darling, steer it up, yeah. Come on and steer it up. A little darling, steer it up, yeah. Next verse. Quench me when I'm thirsty. Come and cool me down, yeah. When I'm hot, your recipe, little darling, is so tasty. Girl, I just want to stir your pot. Come on and steer it up. A little darling, steer it up, yeah. I think I just did the third verse, second. So now we're going to do the second verse. I'll push the wood, I'll light the fire. Can I satisfy your heart desire? Said I steer it up, yeah. Every minute, all you got to do is keep it in it. Come on and steer it up. A little darling, steer it up, yeah. Come on and steer it up. A little darling, steer it up, yeah. And that's all there is to it. Remember, you can do that reggae strum as simply as you want until you get comfortable with it. A light touch, use usually goes a long way. Usually sounds quite good if you have a light touch, especially if you're doing lots of muted strums in between your chords. Remember to try to keep it relaxed and slow. One of the easiest things to do when you're playing reggae is to speed up, and it takes practice to keep a nice, slow, steady rhythm. I probably sped up during the course of that song. It's very easy to do. The more you can hold back and keep that tempo laid back and slow and close to the original tempo of the original song, the better it's going to sound. The easier it's going to be to get that playing and that strumming feeling and sounding natural as well. So try not to speed up. Try and keep it nice and easy and nice and slow. Start simple. Use picks. Use your fingers. Make it sound good. Have fun with it. I hope this has been really helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm always happy to take your responses and answer questions, but with reggae strumming, you really just got to keep working at it and keep relaxed. Keep that right hand as relaxed and as open as you can, and it's going to sound good. You just need to keep at it. All right. Thanks very much for watching. I am adding new charts and new tuition videos to the OneChart website all the time, so please come back and visit as often as you can, and we hope to see you there again soon. Cheers, thank you.